Hello, problem solvers. Have you ever introduced continuous improvement and had somebody step up and say, actually, that's continual improvement? Or somebody on your team, maybe, or in your organization said, we're going to start a continual improvement team because you are the continuous improvement team, which is very different. So today we're going to talk about what those differences are so that you can understand some of the semantics here that might be happening when you launch your team, when you talk to leaders about your team. These are some of the challenges that you might come across. Now, this is my series Unstuck. I'm Amanda Zimmerman, and each week what I'm doing is sharing some tips, some research about what I've learned about continuous improvement so that we can get our teams winning instead of spinning. Over and over again, I see CI teams stuck where they're not actually showing benefit. They're not actually meeting the goals of the organization. And my goal here is to get us unstuck, get us winning so that we can have the best CI teams in the world. Now, today we're going to talk a little bit about these semantics, and starting with that, we're going to talk about continuous improvement, lowercase, versus continuous improvement, uppercase. Now, through this series, these first sessions that I'm doing are really focused on continuous improvement, lowercase. I'm talking here about the general concept of ongoing improvement, and it might be applied broadly in really a lot of different contexts. So when I talk about continuous improvement and the origin of continuous improvement, it's really in this place of ongoing improvement. Whereas when we're talking about continuous improvement, we're being more specific about the structured ongoing continuous improvement or ongoing incremental changes that are usually closely associated with specific methodologies like Lean and Six Sigma. So this is going to be where next week or in the coming weeks, I'm going to talk more about modern continuous improvement. And this is where we're really going to be delving into capitalized continuous improvement versus continuous improvement as a general concept of ongoing improvement. But what we came here today to talk a little bit more about was continuous versus continual. So continuous is about forming, or continuous literally means forming an unbroken whole without interruption. So you can see here we have a line. There's no stopping, there's no breaks. It's endless and ongoing. So we can think of like the hum of a machine or an engine. It's continuous. It never stops. It keeps going and going and going. Continual, on the other side, is forming a sequence in which the same action or event is repeated frequently. So here you can see an example where we have continual rain made the pitch muddy. That doesn't mean that the entire time it was raining at the same amount. It means that over the time of this event, it stopped raining, it rained a little more, it rained a little less, but it occurred repeatedly with breaks in between. And really, when we talk about continuous improvement, as we looked at in these definitions, we're talking about the ongoing process of small incremental changes. We're not saying that these continue like endlessly. There's no ebb and flow to them. We're actually describing continual improvement. We're describing where we have these breaks or these moments where we stop, we say, okay, now what do we want to work on? And then we take on these tools again. So we do have these sequential activities. Continuous improvement literally would be that we never stop. We never kind of take a moment and observe where we are. We don't have this sequence of problem solving, structured problem solving that we might get through. Whereas continual improvement is usually what we're describing, where we're talking about incremental change. We're seeing that stair step, right? Each day we're making things a little bit better. And we're using these structured problem solving tools, these different methodologies to help us take those steps. And so when people correct you and they say, actually, what you're talking about is continual improvement, I would say they're absolutely right. They're absolutely right that continual improvement is a better description of what we're doing than continuous improvement. However, for whatever reason, continuous improvement has been what's taken off, what people are used to using and saying. So you have to balance as a continuous improvement professional, which one of those do you want to use? Which one of those terms do you want to use in your business? Or maybe you decide to call it process improvement or be more specific and say lean or kata or Six Sigma, right? But if somebody does come to you and they correct you and say, actually, what you're doing is continual improvement, you can have confidence now that they're probably right, that that is probably a better description of what you're doing, but that continuous improvement has been the way that overall organizations have accepted that we're referring to these tools. So what we're doing is continual improvement, but what we generally call it is continuous improvement. Hopefully that helps you sort through some of those terms or semantics, as that is something that comes up quite frequently. It's something I get a little bit testy about, as I think sometimes we push for perfection in people or in the terms that we're using, and we miss the actual point, the actual intent of these tools. We get so stuck on how we're describing them, we don't actually use them effectively. And this is one of the ways in your CI teams that you can get stuck, is that you get so focused on perfectly describing this, saying continual improvement instead of continuous improvement, instead of just making sure that people each and every day are making improvements. So next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about the history of modern continuous improvement, which is what we usually think of. So Deming and Toyota. So we're going to delve into that a little bit more. I was actually on vacation this week, so I pre-recorded this the week before. But if you are in Washington, Oregon, or California, I am traveling over the next few weeks. So I would love to get a coffee. I'd love to chat with you about your CI team or about CI teams that you've led or been a part of. I'm really keen to understand what's working for you, what's not, especially in non-manufacturing environments, in service and transactional environments. What's actually working in continuous improvement? What is actually making an impact? What is it that you recommend or that you say, oh, I'll never do that again? Would love to hear from you. Have a fantastic week.